Kevin Besecker, thanks for sitting down with TalkToDrivers.com. How did you get your start in racing?
I got my start in racing at age 6 in go-karts. I'm a third-generation racer. My family's been racing since 1955. My grandpa bought a jalopy. They opened Eldora in 1954, and we lived about 10 minutes from there, or he did. And the family's remained in Greenville, which if you go to Eldora, you know, is just south. He raced sprint, or he got into the super modified, sprint cars. Then my dad drove a little bit of everything: modified, sprint cars, go-karts. Then he started flagging go-kart races, and that's kind of how I started. We bought a little go-kart. Started in Union City, Ohio, at a track called 550 Raceway.
Who was your first sprint car owner?
My first sprint car owner was a guy named Doug Simon. He was a guy from a local town. He had owned a sprint car for another local driver, and he had an extra motor sitting around. And I went with him and helped him a few times. And so he said, "Well, hey, I've got a motor in a car. If you put it together, you can use it." So first year was Wing 410 Racing. We raced mainly at KC Raceway in Chillicothe. And you know, I had been a pavement midget guy, so I knew absolutely nothing about dirt whatsoever. So that was a real eye-opener for me.
What was your most memorable win?
The most memorable win had to be the sprint car win down at Lawrenceburg in 2005. A lot of you know me and knew that we did the program A Summer to Remember with the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, my grandfather passed away a month or so before. And the neat thing about that race was that it was like an old-timers race. They had the Shriners there and a lot of old vintage race cars. And you know, it was just a really neat race for me to win, especially during that summer with everything that had went on.
Of the old school drivers, who would you like to run against? Name at least 3.
Oh man, that's a tough one. You know, I guess growing up with my grandpa, always having him in my ear, you know, I always heard about, you know, how great it was back in the day and how tough the guys were and how we would never be tough enough to race back then. So, you know, some of the toughest that come to mind, I mean, obviously, I think everybody'd like to race against AJ Foyt. Or maybe not even race against him, just see him race, see if he was really as good as what everybody said. You know, but some of the guys that I would like to race with, I would have always liked to race with Robbie Stanley, Rich Vogler, and Bubby Jones. I don't know why, I've always liked Bubby Jones. You know, my family, he was always kind of a hero. My grandma had a crush on him, I think, back in the 70s. But yeah, you know, any of the guys that raced back in the day, you know, when cars weren't as safe and technology wasn't advanced, and you know, it just took a real driver, you know, just tons of will and talent to drive a car and make it to the front. You know, I guess we'd be fortunate to race with any of those guys back then.
Are there any tracks or races that you didn't get to run that you wish you would have?
The Chili Bowl for one, in the midget. I've always wanted to go out west and race like Paris, Manzanita, you know, even like Chico with a wing on. I just never really got anywhere out west, but I think I always wanted to go out there and race. You know, the cars are always beautiful out there, you know, and you always hear stories from out west, you know, and the tracks are kind of legendary. They're like Ohio, or they're like Eldora is in Ohio, you know. You always hear about Manzanita, Paris, Chico. You know, actually, I'd like to go run Williams Grove sometime. That's the same thing, you know. You may not like winged racing a lot, but you know, Williams Grove is one of those places. The same thing. It's just got a distinct characteristic about it that makes it tough to drive on, and you know, it's just got like legendary status.
Are you officially retired from driving race cars?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I don't know that anybody ever officially retires. I think most guys either get hurt, run out of money. You know, I wouldn't say I'm retired. Maybe I'm just taking a break for right now. You know, I really enjoy doing the wrenching on these cars. It gives me a whole different perspective. You know, before I always turn wrenches on my own cars, so I would get a feel what the changes were that I made. But now, you know, I couple that with the fact that I get to see what the changes make and have the feeling of what it does. So I think if I ever get back to racing, you guys better watch out, because I'll probably win a lot. But yeah, I don't know. You know, we'll see. I wouldn't mind racing some late model stuff. I know this is more of a sprint car thing, but I really enjoyed racing the late model, the 18 or 20 shows I raced too. So I wouldn't say I'm ever retired.
How did you come up with the idea of recognizing the Golden Summer drivers?
Well, that was, like I said earlier, that was a program we put together with the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. That came about in part because it was my family's 50th year being involved in racing to some capacity. And what really set it off, we were looking for something to do. We had already decided we were going to paint the car a vintage paint job, and we actually had the same guy who painted my grandfather's race cars paint that one. But what really got us thinking about doing something, I guess it was the winter of '04, and we went to the PRI show. It was actually the Hall of Fame awards that they were giving out to Driver of the Year and all that. Well, when the awards were over, they had a small ceremony with some of the old-time guys who had already been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I'd say probably half, three-fourths of the place cleared out. And, I just felt it was tragic because the guys who were there getting awards, and not all of them, but, some of them cleared out. And to me, it was pretty disrespectful because without those guys, the sport wouldn't be where it is today. I mean, no question about it. And, what we did basically was we honored a driver each month that had either driven for my grandpa or had a close family connection or was one of my heroes as a kid. And so we just kind of ran with it from there, and it really turned out to be a pretty neat program. We had a lot of fans involved, raised some money for the Hall of Fame, and to me it's just important to honor your past. If you don't know your history and where you're coming from, it's hard to tell where you're going to go, where the sport's going to be, and I guess it was just my way to pay tribute to the drivers that had come before us and got us to where we are today.
Do you want to say anything to the fans about your son Drake?
First and foremost, most of you know my son Drake. I've been keeping up on the message boards with him, and I just have to say that we're so blessed to be in the racing community and have such a strong racing family. This whole ordeal with Drake has been just so tough on our whole family, and I can't say thank you enough to everything that people's done, the emails, the words of encouragement. I mean, there were a lot of nights where, we would just sit there and we were just so grateful to have such a supportive racing family. I couldn't imagine having to go through something like this without having the support of all you guys out there. It's the emails, the cards, the letters, they just mean so much. And you just feel so helpless when it's one of your kids, and I'm guessing, always being a driver myself, I'm guessing it's the same emotions that a family member or loved one goes through when one of their drivers are hurt. It's just a helpless feeling. There's absolutely nothing you can do but just sit there and just watch and be supportive, I guess. And, it's tough for me because, we've never really had any situations like that come up in life, and I just want to say thank you to all you guys out there who have made our life so much easier for the past 4, 5, 6 months. And if anyone ever gets in a situation like we were in, don't hesitate to call, email us, because it's been very tough, and without you guys, I don't think we would have made it. We'd have probably ended up in mental hospitals by now. So thank you very much.
Kevin Besecker, thanks for sitting down with TalkToDrivers.com.
Thank you.